everybody. Welcome back to the ANJC podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Acanfora, and I want to let you all know that we had a great interview and I forgot to record it. Fantastic. So I'm going to read Dr. Campbell's brief bio, and then we're going to get into some questions. Really, I hope we can replicate it because it was amazing. Dr. Campbell was born and raised in South Amboy, New Jersey, graduated from St. Mary's High School, graduated from Middlesex County College in 1984 with an associate's degree, then went on to Palmer College in Davenport, Iowa, and graduated in 1988 with a Doctor of Chiropractic and a BS degree. After associating for 1 year, started a private practice in 1990 in East Brunswick. Trained and certified in acupuncture, primarily with Dr. Richard Yenny in Kansas City, then traveled with him to China in 2012 for additional training and to meet masters of the healing arts. He received a diplomate in chiropractic acupuncture in 2010. He served on the acupuncture diplomate board for 6 years and served as president of that board. He represented the Diplomate Board at the annual Specialties Committee meeting at the ACA for 3 years. He served on the ANJC board in 2012-2013 and also served as second vice president. Now he is currently serving as treasurer for the ANJC board, and he has served on various boards and associations over his career, most recently as treasurer of Middlesex College Scholarship Foundation. Dr. Campbell is married with 2 college-age children. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Good to be here.
So explain to me why, and tell everyone why you became a chiropractor.
Well, Mike, my younger brother and I were trying to outdo each other when we were kids, jumping up and down in the bed to see who go higher. And I wanted to win. So when I pushed my last jump, I jumped as hard as I could. I felt a crack in my neck and my right ear went all the way over into my shoulder. Still the most painful injury I've ever had. And I thought for sure I had broken my neck. So my parents brought me to the emergency room in South Amboy and they x-rayed it and said, well, nothing's broken. And they gave me muscle relaxers to take. And after a few weeks, I was able to get my ear a little bit up off my shoulder. And after a few months, I was still stiff, but at least I was able to get my head somewhat straight. But what happened after that, Mike, is I began to get sick all the time. I started to get strep throats and bronchitis. And every month I was sick with something. And I thought, oh, great, I'm just a sickly child and I'm going to have to deal with this. And I was on antibiotics 8-10 times a year, and it wasn't good. And by the time I got into my teens, and started high school, I was a skinny kid who really almost like a little failure to thrive type kid. I was fairly tall, but I was only about 130 pounds, so I was very skinny. So by the time I got into college, I decided to go to Middlesex College. I was going to be a music major because that was my first career. So I met a chiropractor in one of my classes, or the brother of a chiropractor, and he was going to be a chiropractor as well. And he said, well, you got to try chiropractic. I mean, that sounds like a chiropractic problem. So I did. And his brother checked it out and said, well, the problem is when you were jumping, you pushed this first bone in your neck out of place, your atlas. And that shifted as far as it could possibly go to the left side. And that's why your head went all the way into your shoulder. And he says, when I adjust that, your health is going to improve and you're going to feel better. I'm like, oh, this is great. So my first adjustment, right, which was everybody's first adjustment is such a, surprise. My first adjustment drained my sinuses, and it had been clogged so long that I had gotten used to it. And so when my sinuses drained, I had this epiphany, like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And this chiropractor told me that you're meant to be healthy. And when there's no pressure in your nervous system, your body can fight off disease and illness. When there's pressure in your nervous system, you're going to get sick. Well, this is the greatest thing I think I'd ever heard at that point in my life, because I thought you had to avoid getting sick and wear masks and avoid germs and all those other things. It was really about how strong your immune system was. So my immediate second thought at that time, Mike, was, how come I'm 18 years old and this is the first time I'm hearing about this? And I knew right then and there that I had to be a chiropractor so that other kids could avoid getting sick like I did for 12 years and nobody knowing what's wrong with me. So here we are 37 years later.
Talk to me about your first career? You mentioned it just briefly.
Yeah. Well, I was at 9 years old, I started playing the guitar, and I wanted to be John Lennon from the Beatles. And I have to say that because our younger generations might not know who some of these people are. But I started, all I wanted to do was play guitar and music, and I love playing and singing. And by the time I was 14, I was good enough to start playing out professionally. And I started playing high school dances. They'd give us $20 a head or something. And then we would play local bars. And back then, you could play bars when you were 15. The drinking
Yep.
age was only 18. They didn't care. So we started playing out regularly. And, by the time I was, in my late teens, I was pretty sure I wanted to make a career out of it. And good friends of mine had gotten really famous doing it. And I thought, well, maybe I could do that as well. And then I discovered chiropractic and kind of switched my majors and went to more basic sciences. Yeah.
It's amazing to me in practicing. I graduated 30 years ago this past June 14th.
You're just starting
The
out.
amount of chiropractors that are musically inclined, it's amazing to me. What instrument do you play?
Guitar.
Guitar. Awesome. Um, and in our preamble, you were talking. You said you did over 700 gigs in your lifetime.
Yeah, probably about that, between seven and 800. Yeah.
It's amazing. That is truly
They add up.
amazing.
You do 25, 35 a year, you do that long enough and it adds
Yeah,
up. You know.
absolutely. Uh, who's your favorite to play?
Oh, that's a good question. I love the old classic rock. I mean, I sing too, so I love to sing the Doors.
Yep,
I love to play guitar on things like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Southern rock like Leonard Skinner, Allman Brothers.
sure.
Good old they used to call it shit kicking music. Good old fun music to dance to and party to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great. I love it. I love it. So, Jim, you're both a chiropractor and acupuncturist. What is the most common problem that patients come to see you for?
Yeah. Well, when I was in school, I trained with James Cox out in Fort Wayne, Indiana, but he was doing the distraction for hot lower backs. And when I first got out into practice, I figured I would be treating a lot of acute lower backs. And then I discovered that the majority of patients were coming in with neck pain that radiated into the shoulder, down to their arm and fingers and hands. And you and I remember the early 90s, everybody was getting carpal tunnel surgeries. And unfortunately, most of them didn't work. And really, two or three of them were probably carpal tunnel, and the other 100 were radiating cervical pain from
Sure.
nerve root entrapment and things. So I saw so many of those, I got to really enjoy treating those, and we got really, really good at it. Now we have occupational therapists working on wrists and PTs working on shoulders in our multi-specialty practice. And those are a lot easier than the acute lower backs, right? You remember they're carried in, they got one person, on each side, and they take forever to get on the table, it's just so horrible to see people in that kind of pain. So we still see that, but much more commonly now is the neck, radiating pain out of the neck.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What percentage of folks would you say come to you for acupuncture and chiropractic and combine the two?
Yeah, it's more than 50%. Of course, we were talking about acupuncture earlier. It's acupuncture by itself is wonderful. Chiropractic by itself is wonderful. If you combine the two, the synergistic effect is amazing. And if you've got a pinched nerve or some kind of mechanical obstruction in your nervous system, if you remove that first, now the body is able to heal better, and the acupuncture is so much more effective. And we've actually graphed that. We have graphing machines where we graph Akabani points and source points in the fingers and hands, and you could see an electrical change just from the adjustment. And so sometimes when we're graphing them, the graphs are really off the chart, and we adjust the upper cervical spine, those numbers become much more normal, and now the acupuncture has a greater effect. So the combination of those two things is amazing.
Awesome. The one thing that you wrote in your bio that I just wanted to explore a little bit. So you traveled with Dr. Yenny to China in 2012. What was that like?
Oh, that was amazing. There were about 49 of us together, a few acupuncturists, but mostly chiropractors who wanted to do acupuncturists, most of whom I knew.
Yep.
And we flew into Beijing and we stayed in it was kind of like a clinic, I guess you would call it, a three-story clinic that was just a surrounded horseshoe type building with an open center area. And for 5 days, we trained with local acupuncturist, Master Juan, who was a master of Qigong and acupuncture. We watched him treat serious health cases. We got treated every day with Tui Na, which is a form of massage, and Qigong was his energy healing, which is amazing. If you've never had that, you have to do that. And acupuncture. And I tell you, after 5 days of getting treated every day was amazing. But he was a five-star general in the Air Force, in the Chinese Air Force. So
Wow.
we had access. We got to see Tiananmen Square. We got to see the Forbidden Temples. We got in to see Mao Zedong's embalmed body in the middle of Tiananmen Square, and it
Wow.
was quite an experience. And then
Oh
from
my,
there we went to Shanghai and trained in the acupuncture hospital there. They have a whole wing over there for traditional Chinese medicine. So that was amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
And you've been applying your acupuncture chiropractic. How long have you been certified in acupuncture?
Well, I have my diplomate, which is the highest form of chiropractic certification in chiropractic. I had my diplomate in 2010, and Richard Yenny asked me to serve on their board, and I eventually became their uh, president at one time. And I also, as you were reading in my bio, I also served on the Specialties Councils Committee at the ACA, representing the acupuncture board. So I would say I started training about 25 years ago. And
Okay.
I'll tell you, you learn something new every day with acupuncture. And I have two amazing acupuncturists who I learned from, and I'll ask them different questions about something. Would you treat this point? They're like, you could. How about this point? Yes. How about adding this point? And they're like, try this point. It works every time. So there's a lot. It's a lot of fun talking about acupuncture, and
Absolutely.
you never stop learning. It's so much information.
In our preamble, you also said you just hired a new chiropractor.
Today, I just hired another chiropractor. It'll be our
Brilliant.
third.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you have a wealth of experience. You've been doing this for 37 years. Yet, any plans on retiring?
Oh, no, 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 no. Every day I get up, Mike, and I say a prayer to God to give me longevity because I really love practicing and I never want to quit. I never want to stop practicing. I always say I'm halfway through my career because another 37 years I'll be 100. Then you could have me on your podcast again. And there's a guy that practiced 60, 74 years and he's 100. That would be so
That,
cool. I would love
that
that.
would be amazing.
Yeah.
It's a date, Jim. It's a date. Is there anything, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we close out the show?
Well, I'm going to tell the younger chiropractors this is the greatest career you could ever have. You're helping people, there's no side effects. You're helping people like me who couldn't get help anywhere else. And, I always say the same thing to people. If you need a chiropractor, the only thing that's going to help you is a chiropractor. And since 98% of our patients get well without any residual impact, I would say that 98% of the population needs us. So there's no shortage of patients. There's just a shortage of chiropractors who are willing to do whatever it takes to help those patients.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely 100% slam dunk. Jim, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they have any questions or
Yeah.
want to get treated? Where's the best place for them to reach you?
Well, you can call our main number in the office, 732-254-2273. You can also email me. My email is drc@campbellchiro.com. Campbell is spelled Campbell, Chiro.com. Campbell like the soup, as my father we used to say. And you can also text me. My cell number is 732-598-8454, and I will get back to you as soon as I can with texts.
That's awesome. I really appreciate it. What's your website, Jim?
CampbellCaro.com.
Perfect. Anything else you'd like to impart before we go?
No, I'm just so pleased that you asked me to be on your podcast, and I hope we do it again.
Well, I'm so pleased that you were on the show, and I actually remembered to record it, which was
I think the
awesome.
second one was better.
I think the second one was better too. First one will be part of our blooper reels.
There.
Jim, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too, Mike. Thank you.